What did a school teacher say that stuck with you? There's no benefit to being right if you can't make people listen to the answer. I'm FB friends with several of my old teachers. I once wrote about how I had the recurring nightmare of being in my chemistry teacher's class and having to take an exam but not having studied for it. He replied saying that his recurring nightmare is my being in his class. He should have just sent you a study guide for one of his exams. Maximum sass. I think he retired about 20 years ago. I had a maths teacher who was an older woman, really strict, and nobody particularly liked her. We mocked her way of speaking and were generally mean teenage assholes. Once, when I was around 15, I hadn't finished my homework, so I dropped my book in a puddle and showed it to her in class to say I'd lost the homework so couldn't hand it in. She questioned me a bit on how it had happened, then asked me to stay after class. The whole lesson I was shitting myself, expecting to be absolutely bollocked once everyone else had gone, so when the bell rang I sheepishly went up and sat at her desk after everyone had left. To my surprise, she didn't shout at me but gently asked if I was being bullied and somebody had taken my workbook and ruined it on purpose. I was a little skinny kid with glasses and braces, so I can see why she would have thought that, but in that moment I suddenly saw her as a human being with feelings and empathy and not just a teacher. I felt like shit for the way I had treated her, and for lying about what had happened. I never admitted it to her, just reassured her that I was fine, but it did stick with me and I was much less of a dick to teachers after that. This reminds me of a similar thing that happened to me at around the same age that I still cringe about sometimes. I was several weeks into a course in high school. I still hadn't bought the textbook. When the teacher found out I didn't have the book, she took me aside and asked why. Being a dumb teenager, without thinking I gave her some lame excuse about the book being too expensive. My family was solidly middle class, and, although not rich, my parents definitely would have bought the book for me. The real reason was just that I was lazy. But my teacher looked sincerely concerned and quietly handed me a $20 bill. I was caught off guard and mortified. Of course, I did buy the book right away after that. And then later that year returned a $20 to the teacher. I always struck by the generosity of a teacher who would do that for her students, but I felt awful about how what I thought was an innocent lie turned out. Definitely a valuable lesson in honesty, lol. There are only two kinds of people who can really stick it out as a teacher. Ones who care about children, and ones who need to be the most powerful person in the room to feel alive. To varying degrees, of course. But I feel there is little in between. I've found that any field that requires you to be a leader is like that. Some people are natural leaders, so they blow through it without thinking about it, but that's pretty rare. Some really care about the work. And some can fuel themselves with their own egos, which can be a valuable tool for ignoring the bad. My geometry teacher was super chill. He taught us to play poker and blackjack. On the last day of school he said, "Remember, if you ever need anything or have any questions while you're at this school, there are about 50 other teachers you should go to before you come to me." Edit, apparently all y'all's geometry teachers are either hooking up with another teacher or taught y'all how to gamble. My geometry teacher was too busy getting poked by my history teacher to care about us. I went from honors to support. My geometry teacher was getting busy with our English teacher, lol. What is it with geometry teachers? Lol. They can work all the right angles. In my senior year we had a dinner at school. There was a very long queue for the desserts, so I went and asked a history teacher where it started, because I couldn't find it. It was pretty chaotic. The teacher proceeded to put an arm around me, walk me to the desserts table, and say, "Ray, my boy, duck the queue." RAYMYBOY. Me boyos duck thy queues. He'd been blasted with a ray gun. Beware the Tommy gun. You're a spoon and a knife block when asked why most of my friends were high achievers and I was only average. Ever tried to eat ice cream with a knife? You're useful in your own way, bro. Keep it up. Edit, typo. First day off science class. Many of the topics I will be teaching you this year will likely be proven false throughout your life. I love teachers that are honest with students. Simply saying something like "you'll never need to know this, but it's part of the exam so we have to" is so much more likely to get me to learn something than just saying it's important. Sounds like an ace teacher. After being caught smoking pot in high school, 1986. My science teacher, hi Mr. Fishbein, said to me, "There is a time and place for everything. This is not the time, nor the place." He did not report me to administration. He was a great teacher. Professor Oak said the same thing when I tried to fish in the Pokemon Center. Or ride a bike inside. Teachers like marking your homework as much as you like doing homework. Whoever threw that paper your mom's a hoe edit, this blew up way more than I expected. Thanks for the silver and platinum. Funny how it went from me creating an account just to write that down to me getting platinum and shit. This community is awesome. He said with rage, you used to be one of the good ones. A teacher said this to me, but instead he said with a tinge of sadness, I would reconsider the direction change I've made.
But who am I? I just got called out for not being in because no one ever noticed me.
I know what it is to be young, but you don't know what it is to be old. I don't know why and how it came up, but our English teacher asked me if I understand that. It was the first year and I was 10, and I definitely did not understand. But it somehow stuck in my mind as the sound of the sentence, until I could decipher the memory in retrospect. As my dad said, I have been 17, you haven't been 50. And my brain still thinks I am 18. Getting old sucks, but it's better than the alternative. Never complain about getting old, it is a privilege denied to many. Mark Twain. I once asked my teacher something about the subject. And she said, I don't know, but I'll do some research and get back to you tomorrow. I'm studying to be a teacher, and one of my teachers told us there is no shame in admitting to your students that you don't know something. However, you should look it up to answer it next time you see them and be prepared for the next time you get asked that. One time one of my elective classes was just kind of chilling out the day before winter break, and the teacher decided to arrange all our desks in a circle. He had everyone anonymously write something that was troubling them at the moment, and he would go through and give some advice. I wrote about my parents' constant fighting and how I feared their inevitable divorce and the possibility of moving across country with my mother. I wish I could remember what he said, but I vividly remember almost crying because what he said hit so hard, but I kept it together. Less than a month later, both things happened. Lamau. They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. I took Latin all 4 years of high school. I quickly realized I despised the language, but I stuck with it for the teacher himself. He alone was worth it. Our Latin class was right above the hallway with classrooms for special needs kids. One day, after it was apparent nobody did their homework, my teacher stopped class and said, "You're all taking what you have for granted, and it's inexcusable. There are several dozen kids in the hallway below you who wish they had the mental faculties to do homework." I did my Latin homework regularly after he said that. Edit, holy shit, this blew up. I deleted Reddit for 2 days and came back to over 7K karma. Thank you for the silver, kind stranger. What about the other kids in your class? Did they also start doing their homework? Like, what was the general reaction to that statement? I think most things that stick do so because the listener was in the perfect mindset. It's not so much about the words themselves. The words are a simple key that unlock a box you didn't know you had. I had a homeroom teacher that, out of frustration one day, ranted about how easy school was. He said, "We literally give you a book or the text, tell you to read it, then ask you to answer questions. The answers to which are found in the book we gave you. It doesn't get any easier than that. Read the damn books, answer the damn questions, that's all school is." I like that last sentence. It's really 3 sentences in one. Someone obviously read the damn books. What do they call someone who graduated vet school with a 2.0 GPA? Dr. My first term anatomy professor, in vet school, telling us to stop fretting so much about the grades and worry about the knowledge. Edit, added clarification about what level of education this advice came from. My anatomy teacher was a cool dude. He'd give us little tidbits of advice before each test, ranging from always put your shopping cart away to you don't have to be 100% okay 100% of the time, and that's 100% okay, 100% of the time. He's definitely one of the best teachers I've had.